Tonight, we're shining the spotlight on three individuals who are making a difference in fighting the good fight by advocating for those who can't. These three women, who bonded over shared experiences of having loved ones in prison, form the group Sisters in Prison Reform. Their mission? To change excessive sentencing laws and providing more opportunities for parolees. These inspiring ladies are with me tonight: Pauletra James, Juanita Belton, and Santia Nance. I appreciate all of you for being on with me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just start off by getting our viewers more acquainted about your organization, your group, and how you all met. I know you don't live in the same city, and you've actually only been together in person a handful of times. So, Pauletra, to you first, please tell us how this trio was formed.
Sure. Thank you once again for having us tonight. Sisters in Prison Reform came about because we kind of moved in the same circle during the General Assembly, as we each had a loved one that's incarcerated in the Department of Corrections. And so we were kind of, listening to the same stories, hearing the same tough on crime mindset of legislators and lawmakers. And I met Santia at a rally that was being held in Richmond, and she didn't have an umbrella. And so we started conversating. And then that led me to Juanita, who I had met online through some events and town halls that lawmakers and legislators were having. And we kind of just started having conversation about, how each time bills and legislation were going through the General Assembly, they always excluded violent offenders or those accused of, harsh offenses. And we just realized that we needed to do something to help our loved ones, and there formed Sisters in Prison Reform, and we got to work.
Juanita, so how did this grow from just conversation to wanting to form an organization, the organization that you have today, and what inspired the group's name?
So we saw other people doing some work in advocacy in Virginia, and we, like Paula said, we saw that our loved ones who were convicted of violent offenses were being forgotten, and we were like, enough is enough. They weren't going to reinstate parole. There had been a bill about earned sentence credits that they did not apply that did not apply to them. And so we decided we needed to do something. We had no idea what to do. We just knew we needed to do something. And so we started playing with ideas about, well, we could have forums, we can have conversations. And then we learned about Second Look, and we were like, yeah, we need to bring something like Second Look to Virginia. And we started having actual forums. Our first forum was in May of 2021, excuse me. And then just from there, we started reaching out to other advocates about wanting to produce a Second Look bill. And that's just how we got started. And it's just been a whirlwind since then. In terms of inspiration, we played around with our names for a little while, and we were like, okay, we had a bunch of names, and I don't even know how we settled on Sister in Prison Reform, but it just fit us because we are like sisters in real life, even though we've only physically met a handful of times. But we wanted to talk about reform. We said there needs to be equality, freedom, just like we literally sat down and went through this line by line, and that's how we came up with Sisters in Prison Reform. And I must say, because I have to give a shout out to Genesis Asiatic for creating our logo. He is a returning citizen who spent 24 years incarcerated in Virginia.
Such talent that just needs to be realized for so many that are incarcerated at the moment. Well, you all bonded over this common factor of having loved ones serving time. So I want to give all three of you an opportunity to briefly talk about what inspired this effort. Santia, to you first. Can you tell us about your fiance's situation and how is he doing?
Well, he's doing great. His name is Quadair Patterson. One of the things that I think is really significant about the three of us is we realize that our loved ones have been incarcerated for a while, but were really serious about making the best of their time and giving back and doing work and trying to build things, take college classes, educate others, just really doing work to try to better themselves and make, their lives better. And we were like, man, there's really just not a lot going on in the space for those people who have been taking those strides in the right direction. So it's just been so great to connect with these ladies and really talk about the fact that there are people who are, just doing that work. And Quader, he actually has a website that I help manage, which is called Brilliance Behind Bars. And it's all about helping shine light on guys who want to write and have opinions and have been reading books and studying different things in there. And, it just really gives them a platform to show people that they are, human and that they're really smart and that they have a lot
Yeah.
to say. And a lot to contribute to society. So it's just really great getting to help him see that dream get realized, because it's something that he had thought of years and years ago. He just didn't have a way to do it, and he organizes it, behind bars, and coordinates and writes, essay prompts for guys to write on, and that's brilliancebehindbars.com. So it's a great place to see
That's
people who are doing
amazing.
great.
That's amazing. I mean, that's a positive outlet, and that's what, people in there need, right? Some sort of an outlet to express themselves. And we talk about reform a lot, about how we can reform our legal system, our prison system, and we don't ever consult with those that are actually serving time and can better help us understand what needs to be done. All right, so Pauletra, I understand that your husband is in prison. Tell us a bit about his story, please.
Sure. So my husband is Jerry James. He is on year 22 of a 38-year sentence as a first-time offender. His offenses: robbery and use of firearm, which was an unloaded BB gun. And, he went in being a 27-year-old. He was struggling from depression. He was in a abusive relationship and really trying to not live. He had attempted suicide prior to his offenses, and he figured if he would rob banks that the police would kill him. And it's, really heartbreaking for someone to have that kind of mindset, but that just goes to show how mental illness is really a factor in how people operate and how it affects their lives. And so because of that, he ended up getting, the 38 years. And like I said, he's been down for 22. He was a high school dropout and he has since gotten his GED. He is also in college courses to get his associate's degree in biblical studies, because his aspiration is he would like to get out and mentor young men so that they don't end up in the same situation that he ended up in, with suffering from mental illness, feeling you have nowhere to go, turn into a life of crime to solve your problems. And he wants to really ensure that young men doesn't fall into that trap.
Juanita, I hear you received some great news about a friend recently.
I did. So
Please tell us.
Sincere Allah received a pardon from former Governor Virginia Ralph Northam on January 12th, and was released on January 14th. So he's now been out for 5 weeks. He spent 24 years incarcerated, and we worked really hard to bring him home. There were multiple people that were involved in this, and I thank them all. And since he's been out, he has spoken on the Senate floor in Virginia, joined the General Assembly. He recently just got his not license, but permit, bank account, everything that we've done over the course of years. He just recently got them, and he will soon be taking a course in peer recovery support specialist. As a peer recovery support specialist, that's what he'd like to get into. And I'm currently waiting to hear when he can return back to Boston. But he's hit the ground running, joining us in legislation and talking about people who are inside, guys that he's left inside. But he's out and home.
That's amazing news. Listen, we still have so much to talk about, especially this group and your efforts and the work that you all are doing. We've got more with Sisters in Prison Reform after the break. Tonight, we're shining a spotlight on 3 women working to make real change in our criminal legal system. Pauletta James, Juanita Belton, and Santia Nance founded the group Sisters in Prison Reform. All right, guys, so we've talked a lot about, or I've heard Virginia quite a bit, and that's where all 3 of your loved ones are or were serving prison time. And that's where you all are pushing several bills through the General Assembly. Santia, you all just got together in Richmond recently. Can you tell us what you all were doing and tell us more about these bills?
For sure. So the big bill that we've been working on, I know Juanita already mentioned it. It's called Second Look, which is basically a mechanism for reconsideration by the court after you've served a certain number of years on your sentence. The one we're looking at in Virginia is from 10 to 15 years, depending on your age. But it's really about allowing for a reconsideration of your sentence. And that's one thing that goes directly at our loved ones and their long-term sentences that they have. So we were in Richmond, running around the General Assembly, meeting with legislators, the House of Delegates.
Juanita, can you tell me what the support has been like for your efforts, and what's been the biggest challenge for you all as a group?
We have a lot of support with a number of different national organizations, but definitely a lot of our local organizations that we are working with in conjunction on this bill. The biggest challenge is realizing that we're not going to be able to completely end mass incarceration and get everybody home, because that's our goal at the end. But I would say that's been the biggest challenge. But we're definitely diligently working towards something that is positive, that would affect many people.
Listen, we highlight, cases of wrongful convictions a lot on this show, and that's not what you all are focused on. But Pauletta, why is the effort to stop over-sentencing equally important, particularly for, Black and brown people?
It's very important because, it's been a systematic thing that has been happening over a course of years. And unfortunately, those that are in DOC, 51% of them are either Black or brown skin. So we want to remove that stigma and take away the racial disparity that has been happening in our criminal justice system. So that's why this legislation is very important, to help bring light to allowing courts and judges the power to offer sentences that matches a offense as well as a person's situation and circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
So, Santia, what's next for the group?
There's so much next for us. I do think that we have put a lot of emphasis on this specific bill that we've been working on with the Second Look piece, but we're also focused on ending mandatory minimums in Virginia. There are over 100 mandatory minimums in Virginia right now, focused on trying to bring oversight to the Virginia Department of Corrections, and also just anything that is involving trying to get people out. There's just way too many people behind bars in Virginia, over 30,000 people in the DOC. And it's just time to decarcerate. So anything that we can get our hands on, that we can push forward, we definitely intend on, even when we bring our loved ones home, just like Juanita, we definitely intend on continuing this fight because there's so many more people to bring home.
Pauletta James, Juanita Belton, and Santia Nance, Sisters in Prison Reform. I appreciate you all coming on tonight for your time, and thank you for the good work that you're doing.